Victober, I just thought I would start this vlog off with a check-in. It is Victober 1st today. I'm wearing my Victober shirt, even though it's not quite cool enough really to be wearing like a long-sleeved shirt, but I've opened up all the windows in my apartment and I'm just enjoying the coziness of this shirt. And I have actually started 3 of my Victober reads on this first day of Victober. So I started reading the poetry collection that I've picked from G.K. Chesterton. I read the first 3 poems and they were really good. They're quite short, so I think, I know sometimes Victorian poetry can be quite long, like each poem is pages and pages, and these were like shorter little snippets. So I think there's some longer ones in the collection to come, but for today's reading, I just read these first 3 poems and I really enjoyed them. And then I started Aurora Floyd with breakfast. You'll have seen I started reading the first couple of chapters of Aurora Floyd as I was eating my breakfast, and I am obsessed. The first sentence, let me even pull it up on my phone and just read. Her descriptive writing of nature and seasonality and architecture, I love the way she writes. The first sentence of Aurora Floyd: faint streaks of crimson glimmer here and there amidst the rich darkness of the Kentish woods. Autumn's red finger has been lightly laid upon the foliage, sparingly, as the artist puts the brighter tints into his picture. And then it went on to describe kind of how this village looked at sunset and what this big estate house of the Floyd family looked like. So I'm only 2 chapters in so far, so I've just met Aurora Floyd, and she's a young child still at this point, so, but I'm really enjoying it, and I have high hopes that it could become a new Victorian favorite, because those writing in the first couple chapters was absolutely wonderful. And then I'm just about to start listening to Mary Barton. I have the audiobook on Audible that's narrated by Juliet Stevenson, so I'm just about to start chapter 1. I listened to the author's introduction in the middle of the night. So I'm going to start chapter 1 while I put up some autumn decorations, and I think I'm going to clean up my balcony. I'm probably going to have to change out of this shirt so it doesn't get dirt on it. Clean up my balcony for fall, start to rip out some of the flowers and stuff that are dying, and just leave the hardier stuff like the kale that can suffer through the winter a little longer here. So that's my plan for this first day of October, and we have a watch along in Kate Howe's Patreon group of one of the Jeremy Brett Sherlock Holmes adaptations. We're going to watch The Speckled Band together this evening, so I'm really excited for that. I love any kind of Sherlock adaptation, so it'll be good fun. So that is where I'm at on this first day of October. I'm really excited about all my reads so far, and I can't wait to see where this month takes me. So it is Wednesday, October 12th, and I don't think I've done a single talking update about my Victober reading so far, so I thought I would quickly check in and share a little bit about what I've been reading. I've had a little bit of a slow start to the month. You'll have seen in the vlog I traveled for a work retreat, and then I also traveled home for Thanksgiving. So I haven't been home and kind of in my normal routine pretty much the whole month so far, so that's kind of cut into my reading time. But I have started Mary Barton and Aurora Floyd, and I am really enjoying both of them. Mary Barton I'm about 6 or 7 chapters into so far, and it's been a little bit of a slow start. I'm not really sure where the plot is going so far, but I am enjoying it, but I just don't really know where we're heading yet. And then Aurora Floyd, I'm about 60% of the way through. I just finished volume 2 of 3. So I'm reading it on Project Gutenberg, and it seems like every 12 or 13 chapters was split into a separate volume. So I've just finished the second volume, so about 60% of the way through, and I am loving it so much. It is so dramatic and suspenseful. I really have no clue where characters are going to end up. I have some guesses about what is going on in the plot, but nothing really known for sure about the secrets and the mysteries behind what is going on and the characters. So I'm really, really enjoying that reading experience. It definitely has lots of wonderful tension building and some beautiful writing as well, just as I was hoping for after enjoying Lady Audley's Secret so much. It is a really, really fun read so far. So I'm hoping in the next maybe day or two to finally wrap up Aurora Floyd, because it's gotten to the point where there's so many mysteries and secrets that I just really need to keep reading and figure out how those threads all come together in the final chapters. I also did finish, let me find my book here. I finished one of the short stories out of this collection. I finished Lois the Witch by Elizabeth Gaskell. That was the longest short story from this collection that I still had to read, and I found that one really, really enjoyable too. I think it's now tied with The Poor Clare for my favorite short story from this Gothic Tales collection so far. So I have 3 short stories left to read here, but I'm really glad to have read at least one, so I have fulfilled that prompt. And yeah, it was really interesting because it's historical fiction written about the Salem witch trials. So it's an English Victorian author writing about events from early colonial American history. So that was kind of an interesting spin, I guess, on the Salem witch trials. I always find classic historical fiction interesting because it's giving insights into not just the historical time period that the story is about, but also the historical time period that it was written in. So we're seeing how Victorians interpreted the witch trials, which was really, really interesting, and it's definitely a very chilling story of what could happen if you were accused of being a witch in the Salem witch trials. So I'm hoping to get to the other 3 in this series a little bit later on in the month, but I did thoroughly enjoy that, and I'm thinking it's probably going to end up being one of my favorites from the collection. So that's where I'm at with the reading. I've also continued to read a couple of Chesterton's poems so far, and that has also been a wonderful treat. Overall, I'm really enjoying my Victober reading. I'm just off to a little bit of a slower start than I had hoped for, so hopefully I can kind of catch up, and or I will let the professor drop off at the end of the month and just focus on really enjoying what I do have time to read. But the rest of my month really doesn't have that much packed into the schedule. My husband is visiting his family back home in Zambia, so I am alone this month. So I have lots of free time in the evenings to get some reading in now that all this busy traveling period is finished. So that's my reading update for the first week and a half or so of Victober. So I am back in my Victober shirt. I am planning to go check out, we have a library book sale today, so I'm gonna go see if there's anything. I really don't have any room for any more books, so I'm hoping I don't find anything I really want, but I just want to check out and see what kind of deals they have. And yeah, then I'm gonna come home and start a 3D puzzle that I got at the last library book sale actually, and listen to Mary Barton. I've got 3 more chapters to listen to before the first half of our Zoom discussion in Kate Howe's Patreon. So we're supposed to be up to chapter 18 tomorrow, and the plot of Mary Barton is finally picking up. I feel like the first 10 chapters were a bit slow and kind of dragged on. But now that I'm into chapters like 10 through 15 is where I listened yesterday, and those chapters really picked up the plot, and I feel like I'm really starting to enjoy where the story's going. So that's my plan for the rest of this Saturday afternoon. It is October 15th today, which means that sadly Victober is basically half over, which I can't believe. It feels like this month has flown by and I still have so much reading that I want to do. So it is the end of the day on Sunday, October 16th, and I have had a very cozy autumnal day. I did a lot of kitchen prep, so I made applesauce, and I also made pumpkin muffins, and then I had roasted acorn squash with butter and maple syrup with rice for supper, so I had like the trifecta of perfect fall flavors today. So that has felt very cozy, and I've also been working on that 3D puzzle that you'll have seen a clip of, as well as we had our Zoom discussion for the first half of Mary Barton with Kate Howe's Patreon group. So altogether, a wonderful, cozy autumn day. But the reason I wanted to check in is that I did finish my first full-length book for Victober. I know the month is half over and I've just finished my first book. But like I said before, I'm having a bit of a slow start to this month of reading. But I have finished now Aurora Floyd by Mary Elizabeth Braddon, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a top 10 Victorian classic for me. I would say like bottom of my top 10, but still top 10. So definitely a really enjoyable read, but I think I enjoyed Lady Audley's Secret a little bit more. Aurora Floyd just felt a little bit less complex. I read it for the coming of age prompt, and I'm really glad I picked it for this prompt because Aurora, as well as a few of the side characters in this book, really do go on a journey of maturing and growing up throughout this book. And there is definitely some really exciting and suspenseful moments, lots of drama, some thrilling twists, just a thoroughly enjoyable sensation novel. Like I said, it reminds me a lot of Rebecca in some plot points, and it was also really interesting to be reading at the same time as Mary Barton because there are a few similarities in plot points and characters between this book and Mary Barton as well. So highly recommend Aurora Floyd if you haven't read it and you enjoy mysteries, suspenseful writing, or if you've read Lady Audley's Secret and really liked it. So I now have about 3 hours left on my audiobook of Mary Barton. So I think I'm going to probably fly through that in the next couple of days. I didn't want to get too far ahead past chapter 18. I didn't read anything past chapter 18 until we'd had our discussion, so that I wasn't biased in any way by knowing what goes on in the second half of the book. And that has also taken a twist in this second half and has really turned into quite a suspenseful mystery novel after having quite a sad, kind of gritty domestic start with the impoverished workers in Manchester. So now the pace has picked up significantly and we are deep into investigating a murder. So that has been a lot of fun, and I'm planning to listen to that, probably finish it up in the next couple of days because I'm really invested now to find out how it ends. And then my next book that I'm going to start is Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope, which is the third book in the Barchester Chronicles. And I'm really looking forward to starting that. And everyone's reaction when I mention Dr. Thorne is just like pure enchantment. So I think it's going to be really, really fun to finally discover what all the hype is about Dr. Thorne. And that is the book that I'm reading for the prompt to also watch the movie adaptation, so it will be interesting to watch the movie directly after reading the book and see what I think of Julian Fellowes' adaptation. So that is my update for the middle of Victober, and I will check back when I finish my next book, which will probably be Mary Barton, in a couple of days. So it has not been very long since my last update. It is after work on Monday, October 17th, and I'm checking in because I have finished Mary Barton. After I filmed that clip last night, I just kept working on my puzzle and listening to Mary Barton, and then I finished it off during my lunch break today because I just needed to know what happened, and I was very, very satisfied with the ending. It's a really, really lovely novel and definitely going to be a highlight of my Victober, and I'm really happy. I really loved Wives and Daughters by Elizabeth Gaskell, and then North and South I enjoyed, but I was a little bit disappointed by it. So to come back and enjoy Mary Barton so much has me renewed with excitement to continue reading through Elizabeth Gaskell's bibliography. So I had picked Mary Barton for the disability or chronic illness prompt, and there was so much representation in this book of chronic illness and disability. There's one of the main supporting characters who slowly is going blind over the course of the novel, and her storyline was so, so sweet. And then there's another character who I found her story very heartbreaking, but she was struggling with addiction, with alcoholism, so that's another chronic illness that was represented in this book. And then there were a few other minor characters who also had either chronic illness or disability. There was one character who had had a factory accident when she was a young woman and had been affected by that for her entire life. So I really enjoyed that aspect, and I'm glad I picked Mary Barton to fulfill this prompt. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it, and if you haven't read Mary Barton, I would highly recommend it. I kind of think it's like a mix of Aurora, Floyd, Bleak House, The Five, and North and South, maybe? That's kind of the books that it reminded me of. So now that I have finished that, I am going to be starting Dr. Thorne this evening. I'm planning to put up my ancestor wall for All Souls Day and listen to the first few chapters of Dr. Thorne. And then I also finished Rerum Novarum, which was Pope Leo's encyclical. He was one of the popes during the Victorian era, and he wrote this encyclical letter on the conditions of the working classes and on capital and labor. So that was really interesting to read alongside Mary Barton, and that's why I decided to finish it off today, because the themes between the two works were linking so well. So it was really interesting to read Pope Leo's thoughts on industrialization, the Industrial Revolution, and on the responsibilities that the elite classes had towards their workers. So that definitely tied in well with the themes in Mary Barton, and it's one of the foundational documents of current Catholic social teaching, so it was just interesting to have that foundational document read. So that is where I'm at in my Victober reading, and I am off to finish the very last bit of winterizing my balcony. I'm going to roll the rug up so it doesn't get damp stuck under it during the winter, and then I am going to eat supper and start listening to Dr. Thorne. It has been a while since I did an update on how my reading's going. I had a pretty busy week, so I was hadn't made a lot of progress, didn't really have much to update about, but today I finally had some really good time to dedicate to reading, so I read like 10 or 15 chapters of Dr. Thorne by Anthony Trollope, and I'm finally like really dug into the plot and really invested in the characters, and so I think the second half of the book is really going to fly by now. I'm really enjoying Dr. Thorne. It's the third book in the Bartonshire Chronicles, but it's dealing with an entirely new cast of characters, and the things I really love about Trollope and his writing are, first of all, that he's really a really funny writer, and he makes a lot of kind of sarcastic little asides to the reader, like critiquing his characters or kind of saying snarky things about the situations that he's put them in, and so I really love that. And also, I find his characters really multifaceted, and he's not afraid to have good characters have bad qualities. Like the titular character, Dr. Thorne, is a really good character. You know, he's a nice guy, he's looking after his niece, Mary Thorne, and he really, really loves her. But he's also kind of stubborn and proud and a little bit selfish at times. The kind of male love interest, Frank, is quite young and immature at the beginning of the book, so I'm looking forward and kind of enjoying seeing the beginnings of his character arc towards being a more mature, worthy love interest. But it's really fun that his characters experience a lot of growth through the course of the books and have these characteristics that aren't perfect. I find sometimes in Victorian literature, characters can be like quite black and white. Either they're all good or they're all bad, and I feel like Trollope really doesn't fall into that pitfall. So I have about 6 hours left on the audiobook, so I'm really hoping to get through that in the next couple of days here, and so that I can spend the last 2 days of Victober probably focusing on the last of my Gothic short stories. I have 3 left in that collection that I was hoping to wrap up by the end of the month. And then I also have the movie adaptation of Dr. Thorne to watch, which is why I'm trying to finish the book up so that I can get the adaptation in during Victober, because I haven't watched any Victober movies yet this month, which is a bit of a travesty. So that is my plan for the next couple of days, and I can't believe that we're already basically at the end of October. I haven't read a ton of things, but the things that I have read I've really enjoyed. So it's been a good Victober, all things considered. It is Saturday, October 29th, and you'll have seen that I finished off Dr. Thorne last night while riding my exercise bike, and that is just an absolutely perfect story. I loved the character growth across the novel, and of course having a happy ending at the very end, particularly the way Frank grew up and matured into being an adult and someone in charge of his own destiny and able to make his own decisions. I really appreciated. My only, I guess, flaw is I wish we had seen a little bit more of Mary. Even though it's called Dr. Thorne, somehow I thought Mary was going to be the main character, but I feel like there were times when I wanted to know more about her thought process or kind of where she was coming from, and we did get some chapters of that for sure, but I just wish we had more of Mary. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed that. So the last thing that I'm going to try to read this Victober, I did also finish off my Chesterton poetry collection yesterday, so that is knocked off my TBR. So the last thing I have are the 3 remaining short stories in Gaskell's short story collection. So I'm going to plan to read 1 short story a day for the rest of October, and that will be a wrap on my reading The Professor by Charlotte Bronte. I have once again run out of time for, so that's unfortunate, but I did thoroughly enjoy the 3 novels I did read. Aurora, Floyd, Mary Barton, and Dr. Thorne were all 4 or 5 star reads for me, so that is a successful Victober in my books.